The One Punch Man webcomic is back yet again for the first chapter of the year, and I'm just gonna say right now, this chapter is probably one of the most surprising I have read in a very long time. For starters, we get an encounter from Blast Son Blue and Saitama at the very end of this chapter. Saitama straight up dishes out a punch on him, but that's not even the most exciting thing in this chapter, like not even close. We also get the return of none other than Boros himself. And the circumstances under which he's returned is super interesting, so there's a lot to cover in this chapter, so let's just jump right into it. So chapter 150 of the webcomic actually picks up from the end of chapter 146, and at the end of that chapter we saw that Amai Mask was back in action in his hero duties. He transforms into this make-believe hero called Stag Beetle Man and completely destroys a group of robots that are about to take out a kid and an old woman, but in the distance he's actually seen transforming by the Bubbly Boys. Well, I guess now they're the Neo Bubbly Boys, and they're as cocky as ever, thinking they're about to take out Amai Mask easily, and that's where we left off with them. So we pick up in this chapter right from that moment as we see that Amai Mask has gone under another transformation to look like somebody else when he's called out by the Neo Bubbly Boys, claiming that they know exactly who he is and that his disguise isn't fooling them. Well, as they charge Amai Mask, he thinks of what he should do, but then he realizes that he's no longer a hero and he no longer has the right to argue or fight back to them. He's just another monster that needs to be taken out in his eyes. So he transforms into his original Amai Mask form and tells him just to do as he wishes and doesn't fight back at all. So they just put the beating on him, like totally beat him to a pulp, and they actually start getting kind of frustrated that he didn't fight back at all. The leader of the Bubbly Boys picks him up and asks him why he's a monster. He also points out, we also wanted to be like you, super idols. And the other members seem to be pretty sad that they're, beating up on Amai Mask because he was their idol. He was somebody that they were looking up to at some point, a hero to aspire to be. So initially in chapter 146, it seemed like they're going to just be totally arrogant and take on Amai Mask and kind of be like the heels of this little encounter, but it seems that in this chapter they're kind of having a face turn in a way where they do feel guilty for beating Amai down and don't really see him as a monster even though they say they do, because one of them asks what they should do with Amai Mask, if they should take him to the Neo Heroes Tower, but their leader says no, I think the hospital first, we might have gone a bit too far. They're not fully aware of Amai Mask's like crazy strength and regeneration, so in their eyes they just put a beating on him and he's down for the count. They also point out something interesting about the robots that have been attacking all the cities lately. They say we were technically sent out to exterminate the robots, but the robots have gotten quiet. We encountered a number of them, but in the end they never fired even one shot at us. They just destroyed the town. And another one says, no, looks like they fired at a lot of pro heroes too. And another one points out, hey, there's another one over there, it's not moving, is it out of batteries or something? So that's super interesting to point out, because as we all were kind of wondering and honestly assuming as this whole war has been going on, the running theory here has been that this has all been a setup by the Neo Heroes, seeing as how these robots have only been attacking pro heroes from the Hero Association and not Neo Heroes. And in chapter 149, it was made very apparent, at least I think, that Fuzzy is behind all of this. Like Fuzzy is probably a fake Esper of some kind and claiming that he's an Esper because he's quote unquote predicting where all these monsters are going to pop up. But in reality, it's because the Neo Heroes are probably sending them there themselves. That's how Neo Heroes have been able to beat the Hero Association to every monster encounter lately, because they're pretty much just fabricating monster attacks, and it seems like they're doing the same here with monsters and with robots. Well, after seeing one of these robots, a really weird thing happens. The Bubbly Boys start seizing or something and start like shaking uncontrollably, and Amai Mask asks him if there's something wrong, and out of nowhere he gets kicked straight in the ribs and sent through a massive building. And Amai Mask is thinking to himself, this doesn't make sense, and he's not referring to the fact that he just got attacked out of nowhere. He's talking about the fact that he himself is strong enough to be considered a dragon level monster, but even with that, the kick that he just received completely shattered his ribs. And out of nowhere, the Bubbly Boys just get on the offensive and become way stronger than they were. They give Amai Mask so much trouble that he decides to transform back into his monster form. That's when you know that he kind of gets serious and uses his full power. So it's really crazy to think that some people that were just, C-class heroes at most a couple months ago or weeks ago or whatever in the story, now with these battle suits have become strong enough to take on dragon level threats. And it pretty much confirms this big theory that has been going around since this whole battle suit thing has even been a thing. And that's that since these suits are connected to a person's nervous system, and many people were already theorizing that the Neo Heroes are evil, there was a very good chance that eventually these suits would be used to take control over anyone wearing them. And that seems to be exactly what's happening here right now, and we're going to see that that happens with a lot of other people later. Well, we end this first sequence here with Amai Mask thinking to himself, or more so realizing, that it is the Neo Heroes behind all of this. But we don't get any more from Amai Mask here. We actually cut to somewhere else, where Puri Prisoner and his little squad of prisoners are destroying robots, and they end up crossing paths with one of the super sumo that Raiden kind of reached out to. If you remember, like a couple chapters back, we saw Raiden with this team of sumo wrestlers attacking a bunch of robots. Well, they decided to work together and come up with a plan to pretty much compress all the robots in their area, pretty much sandwich them in from two sides. And once they meet in the middle, that would mean that it's victory for them and all the robots in that area are cleared out. Of course, Puri Puri Prisoner has to spin this in some like super like weird sexual way. And he says, so a love sandwich operation then. With that strategy, once we run out of enemies to smash between each other's bodies, we'll end up pressing ourselves together physically in a sweet embrace, which doesn't sound bad at all to me. Tell that to Raiden. So yeah, you know Puri Puri Prisoner, but everybody with, you know, Raiden's team and also Puri Puri Prisoner's team destroy all the robots, and they finally end up converging in the middle like they wanted to. Well, once Puri comes face to face with Raiden, you'd assume that they'd be on good terms because they kind of were the last time they met. Raiden had gained some kind of new respect for Puri Puri Prisoner, seeing how tough he was, so it's super surprising here that he has this look on his face and straight up decks Puri Puri Prisoner in the face. Then he gets this relentless barrage of attacks thrown at him, and he straight up gets like his arm broken and is completely battered up. His prisoner team starts to get super pissed off that he's doing this, and they think that it's because Raiden just planned to do this whole time so he can take out the prisoners here and now, and that really pisses them off, so they're about to attack his team, the sumo team that is. Well, Puri knows that they are way too strong for the prisoners, especially with their battle suits, so he yells for them to retreat, but they're about to get obliterated. They're not listening to him. And unfortunately, we don't see what happens here because we cut away to Genos, but I do hope that Hammerhead's okay because him specifically we see in this panel going to punch Raiden, and there's no way that it's going to do anything. I just hope that he doesn't come out like dead after this or something. I still think that Hammerhead has some kind of role in the story to play since he's stuck around for so long. But anyway, like I said, we cut to Genos, and he reaches another one of Dr. Bufoy's labs. If we remember, his whole mission right now has been to defeat Metal Knight to finally bring him to justice and honestly kill him. We're going to find at the end of this chapter that he straight up wants to kill Metal Knight. So once he makes it to another one of Dr. Bufoy's labs, he notices an abnormal energy reaction, and it's impossible to estimate the disaster level of it. And that's when we get the massive reveal that none other than Boros is regenerating in one of these incubation chambers that Metal Knight has at one of his labs. Apparently it's been healing and regenerating this whole entire time since he fought Saitama. But Genos points out that his brain activity has stopped completely and wonders, is it just a living being deprived of its will and operating as a weapon? A pathetic being whose only purpose in life is to fight, just like me. So there's kind of two things to break down there. One is that Boros' brain activity has apparently completely ceased, which is super interesting because that means that he can be used as a cyborg of some kind. Like, just imagine a cyborg Boros, like that's scary. And it's still up in the air whether or not Metal Knight is evil, you know, truly evil, or if he's just being set up. So it really does raise a ton of questions as to why he has Boros here and why he's letting him regenerate, but also made sure that he had no brain functionality. I mean, it's no wonder why Genos is so convinced that it's Metal Knight here. I mean, it seems like he's creating another mad cyborg in this tube. And honestly, in retrospect, this whole thing makes a whole lot of sense. The fact that Boros is here in Metal Knight's lab, because if we remember, after Saitama defeated Boros in season 1 of the anime, or, you know, whenever you read the manga, he completely obliterated Boros, but we didn't see what happened to his body. And immediately after this, we see that Metal Knight and his drones completely salvage everything from Boros' ship. So it would make sense that they recovered his body along with it. And since Boros has natural regeneration, it's likely that Metal Knight hooked him up to this tube and kept his body alive so it can regenerate on its own, but removed his brain functionality. And again, it's yet to be seen what he's going to do with Boros here, but hopefully we see something soon because this is super exciting. Glad to see that Boros is going to make a reappearance somehow. But Genos is about to destroy the tube when a couple of Metal Knight robots come to stop him. Genos turns to them and realizes that these are straight up Metal Knight robots, like the specific model that he enjoys to use himself, the one that we tend to see him in the manga and the anime and whatever. And he also thinks back to when he first met Metal Knight. So he thinks to himself, I knew he was a dangerous man. Why did I let him go unchecked up until now? What clouded my judgment? And weirdly, he gets these mental images of Saitama, essentially implying that it's Saitama that distracted him or has led him astray somehow. It really seems, especially since Genos had his second rematch with Saitama and he was super bummed out that Saitama didn't see him nowhere near as an equal, and he's felt super stagnant even under Saitama's tutelage. It just seems like that was the first thing that started the doubts in his mind about Saitama as a master. It seems like he's losing the illusion of this great master that is so wise and is taking him under his wing and helping him get strong. He's kind of starting to see Saitama for who he really is. So it's going to be interesting to see later how he deals with Saitama, because I'm assuming he's going to have more of these thoughts as he goes on, because this man is spiraling, as we're about to see. He easily obliterates the Metal Knight robots, and he starts punching himself in the face, telling himself that he can't blame Saitama for his actions or anybody else. He just has to erase the noisy thoughts and do what he has to do. And as he's flying away to the next lab, he's just thinking to himself, I'll eliminate what I must, kill Metal Knight, kill. So he's straight up bent on getting rid of him, like not arresting him, not bringing him to justice, like straight up taking him out, which is a pretty shocking thing because Genos, again, is supposed to be a hero and not do stuff like that. So that's how you know that Genos has like completely lost it. He's pretty much reverted back to the Genos that we first met in the manga and the anime, just a killing machine that's looking to destroy monsters and look for the mad cyborg. That's it. And of course, one is still building up this tension with Genos' storyline because we cut away from him once again, but this time we cut to Axel and the hunters, and it seems that his team of hunters is also under the control of the suits and attacking him. If you guys remember, the reason that Axel isn't being taken over like the others are is because he modified his own suit along with the suit that he gave to Moomin Rider. So whatever he did with those modifications must have deactivated the, control chip or whatever's going on here that is currently activating for the other suits. But I do find it weird that they're attacking Axel since he is a Neo leader. So it definitely raised a lot of questions for me as to what this goal is for the suits to be taking over these people right now, and who exactly are they attacking, because it makes sense why Amai Mask was attacked. He's a monster and he's also from the Hero Association. He's not affiliated with the Neo heroes at all, so that makes sense, but it doesn't make sense here with Axel. So they might just be programmed to attack anybody that's powerful and is not taken over by a suit or something. Not really sure, but we then cut to the final super exciting moment of this chapter when we come to Blue, who's checking out this deserted battleground with robot parts literally everywhere. And I guess this is the site for like everywhere in that area for Blue, because he says it's quiet, everything's already been cleared out. Even in the midst of this chaos, sometimes areas like this pop up that make it feel like it's already over, as if a storm with a will of its own passed through. And then he gets some kind of energy signal and says it's here and not far away. So he moves to where he's getting this energy signal, right? And he sees like all these explosions going around everywhere and all these robot parts flooding the sky, like it's straight up raining body parts. And we know who's causing all this, right? He can't tell where the person destroying the robots even is because he's moving around so fast. And suddenly we just see a massive fist, and you know exactly who it's going to be from, because it seems that Saitama was throwing a punch to destroy one of the robots, and since the sky is currently so flooded with debris, he did not see Blue, so he's completely surprised as he's throwing this punch and Blue gets in his way, but he's not fast enough to stop it, and he totally nails Blue in the gut and sends him crashing into the ground. And all Saitama has to say to himself is, oh man, I f***ed up. And yeah, he kind of did, but I'm assuming Blue's gonna be okay here. And the reason I think he punched him, or the reason I think one wrote him to be punched like that, I'm guessing is to kind of deactivate his suit or to bug out his suit, and that way Blue isn't going to be taken over like everybody else, because Saitama punched him so hard that it kind of wrecked his suit and made it short circuit or something. That's my guess. But yeah, this chapter was totally insane. So much happened in it. I'm talking like 4 different storylines were touched on here, and again, freaking Boros is back, guys. I mean, come on, that alone is cause for celebration, right? Let me know what you think about Boros being back in the comments. Let me know what you think about this whole arc that's kind of seems to be hitting its climax right now. And also, I don't just do webcomic reviews, I also do manga reviews for One Punch Man and a bunch of other One Punch Man content, so click on the video you see right here if you haven't had your fill of Saitama yet. That is it for this one though. Have an absolutely wonderful afternoon, morning, evening, whatever, and I'll see you guys in the next video.